Morning. We'll go ahead and call the regular meeting of the Yuma County Board of Supervisors, also sitting as all special taxing district, May 1 to 2023, to order. So can we please stand for the pledge?
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and move on to call to the public. Call to the public is held for the public benefit to allow individuals to address issues with the board's jurisdiction. Board members may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to Arizona Revised Statute 38-431.01, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to this directing staff to study the matter, responding to criticism, or scheduling the matter for further discussion and decision at a future date. Public comments may be made in person or submitted by email at publiccomment@yumacountyaz.gov. The emails forms of public comment will be accepted until 8 a.m. the morning of the meeting. All public comments will be read out loud during the Yuma County Board of Supervisors meeting that starts at 9 a.m. Desiree, do we have any? Yeah. Anybody from the public? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and leave the call to the public open. And we'll go ahead and move on to presentations, proclamations, and appointment. Item number 1, Chairman proclaims May 15, 2023 as Law Enforcement Memorial Day. Supervisor Simmons will read the proclamation.
Okay, proclaiming May 15th, 2023 as Law Enforcement Memorial Day. Whereas in 1962, President Kennedy proclaimed May 15th as National Peace Officers Memorial Day, also called Law Enforcement Memorial Day, and the calendar week in which May 15th falls is National Police Week. And whereas Law Enforcement Memorial Days pays recognition to all law enforcement officers who have lost their lives in the line of duty for the safety and protection of others, and whereas Law Enforcement Memorial Day is a collaborative effort of many organizations dedicated to honoring America's law enforcement community. Now, therefore, I, Martin Forchess, of the Yuma County Board of Supervisors, proclaim May 15th, 2023 to be Law Enforcement Memorial Day, and witness that whereof I have hereunto set my hand and affixed the official seal of the Board of Supervisors done at Yuma County seat this first day of May 2023. Martin Forchess.
Thank you. No one here. See the sheriff here. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, Leon Wilmot, Sheriff Yuma County. I just want to thank the board for recognizing our law enforcement throughout the United States. I know we lost over 220 officers last year, and we're already at 33 officers this year. So we appreciate you recognizing those that serve and protect our communities each and every day. And this week promises to be pretty full. I know Kokopah Track is going to have a competition where all local law enforcement has been invited out, and the owners of the cars are donating their vehicles to have a law enforcement competition out at the Kokopah Speedway. So that ought to be pretty interesting on Saturday night if you get a chance to come out and watch that.
So you'll be able to speed.
Well, they're not allowing the sheriff to. This will be all the officers for the agency. So, well, yeah, they can speed in a circle anyway.
Yeah.
But thank you again for doing that.
Thank you for your service. Thank you.
I'd like to get a picture with law enforcement instead of law enforcement.
Not the one with the speed camera.
No,
We can
I
take-
know
we can
that
arrange
speed
that one.
camera.
Not the one with the tickets.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We can arrange that one though.
Look at how little I am. Thank you.
I Google it.
Thank you. Yep, that would be, I said, fine.
Only give you a room upgrade.
If you're lucky.
Yeah. Room with a view.
Yeah.
Item number 2, Chairman proclaims May 2023 as National Bike Month in Yuma County. And Supervisor Pancrazy will read the proclamation.
There's one that's the rules.
Bike Month in Yuma County. Whereas throughout the month of May, Yuma County will celebrate biking and the freedom and well-being it provides, as well as the power that riding bikes has in making life better. And whereas May 15th to the 21st, 2023 is Bike to Work Week, and May 19th, 2023 is Bike to Work Day. And whereas throughout the month of May, the residents of Yuma County and its visitors will experience the joy of bicycling through group rides, commuting events, educational programs, silent ride events, and or by simply getting out and going somewhere by bike. And whereas bicycling has been shown to improve citizens' health, well-being, and quality of life, growing the economy of Yuma, attracting tourism dollars and local business spending, and reducing pollution, congestion, and parking costs on our streets and roads. And whereas many Yuma County groups promote the use of bicycles as both a means of transportation and recreation year-round to attract more visitors to enjoy our local parks and trail systems, as well as restaurants, hotels, retail establishments, and cultural and scenic attraction. And whereas these groups are also promoting greater public awareness of bicycle operation and safety education during Bike Month and year-round to reduce collision, injuries, and fatalities and improve health and safety for everyone on the road. Now, therefore, the Yuma County Board of Supervisors do hereby proclaim the month of May 2023 as Bike Month in Yuma County. And I urge all residents to join me in this special observance.
Thank you, Lynn.
Mhm.
I know Jen's
know
not
there's
here,
several
but
people.
we have a representative. Yep. Come on in. Well, step up.
First, I want to thank the supervisors for last year adopting the county's first master bicycle plan. That's a real watershed in in enhancing the safety of bicycle riders throughout the county. And we hope that over the next several months and that you'll start to see some fruit as the administration starts to center on that plan and starts to bring forth the priorities that you have adopted. So we really are grateful that you did that, and we look forward towards working with the county on anything that enhances bicycle safety, and we thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hold on.
Do you want to get a
We'll
picture?
go ahead and turn you the.
But sure, Gene gets it. I don't want him showing up with his bicycle.
I know. Oh, wait, hold this up.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry. The teacher in me just took it over. I can't help it. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
We gotta be on the other side. Missing that strain in my wallet thing.
I didn't bring my wallet today. 'Cause I knew
Yeah, I
was
knew
gonna- Moving on to item number 3, Public Works. Present an award to Juanita Pepper. And this will be Kelly Freak. Yes.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Kelly Fricke, Interim Public Works Director. The purpose of the Adopt a Highway program is to enable our community and civic organizations, as well as private businesses and individuals, to actively participate in enhancing the overall appearance of the Yuma County roadways. Volunteers of the program adopt a one mile segments of a roadway, and agree to remove trash and debris along both sides of their adopted segment for at least a 2-year period, for a minimum of 2 times per year, at least once every 6 months. Oasis RV Park in Dateland has been part of Yuma County's Adopt a Highway program for 7 years. And they've adopted a 1-mile segment of South Frontage Road, which is 1/2 mile west of Avenue 66E and 1/2 mile east of Avenue 66E. Juanita Beard, who goes by Pepper, is the facilitator of this group, and she and her group are very active in this area. They go above and beyond the program's expectations. They clean up 11 miles of South Frontage Road and normally do 1 cleanup per month. Pepper and her group take a great deal of pride in how their part of the county looks, and I'd like to acknowledge this by presenting Juanita with a certificate of appreciation. And your group for your service and all of your hard work. Thank you for being part of our community. It makes a difference when people do what you do. Thank you.
Can we take a picture with it? We'll take a picture. Yeah.
Never miss a
Don't
chance
get off
to get
that
a
easy.
picture.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thanks for all you do out there. Thank you. Thanks for helping me find the place. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. I'm gonna probably have the sheriff.
Okay.
Let me do it here or there?
How do you want to do it? You decide.
Did Juanita leave already?
We have this.
Yeah, she left. I just wanted to thank her again. I thank Juanita again and for all she and her group are doing. And I know there's others in the community that kind of, maybe not so often, but do adopt a road throughout the county. So
That's
great to
It's
see
a long
that.
stretch out there. It's South Frontage, but it's also Highway 80
Yeah.
that runs through there. So.
It's one of those things, I think people adopt a mile, but they really go beyond that. And it's nice to finally recognize some of those people who do this without, they don't really care about the award, and they notice they care how the county looks, and that's great.
We'll move on to item number 4. Yuma County Board of Supervisor Vice Chairman Jonathan Lyons will present information related to asylum seekers and migrant entry in Yuma County.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had the opportunity last week, along with our Department of Emergency Management, to participate in a roundtable discussion with Yuma Sector Border Patrol. In that meeting, we also had members of Border Patrol from San Diego, Calexico, El Centro, Ajo, and Tucson there for part of that discussion. Does this work?
Just don't point it this way.
Just point it at you, Tony? Okay. So part of this, and the Sheriff's Department was there, along with ICE and the U.S. Attorney General for Arizona, to talk about the end of Title 42, which comes on May 11th. To set the table for this discussion, Border Patrol shared with us their intelligence that there are approximately 700,000 as of 3 weeks ago in the shelters in Mexico waiting to come into the United States. They also shared with us that at the Darien Gap, which is the Panama Canal, they've seen a 500% surge in people crossing over that gap on their way up to the United States. So the Yuma Sector Chief, McGurk, actually was there so that we can have a conversation as a community as to what we would do to coordinate in the event that we have a mass migration surge. I received subsequently a letter from Secretary Mayorkas through his assistant last week, and they did in fact confirm that we would see a large number of people coming across the border and that they would have to start to decompress. Currently, they wanted to assess communication on what would happen with our community partners. The mass care services was something that is high on a priority list, and they were there to ask us to evaluate Yuma Community's ability to support, transport, feed, and medically treat and provide shelter in response to a mass migration event. So immediately I started reaching out to the sheriff, met with sheriff last week, and we had a phone call with Senator Sinema, spoke with Senator Kelly on Friday, as well as every one of our federal legislators in Arizona. Reached out to Dr. Trenchel as well, just because they bore the brunt of the medical treatment for the people that were coming across the border. I don't know what we can do to prepare other than to make everybody else aware of it. They were asking us as a community what we could do to prepare. They were concerned about the effects of high heat coming across the border. The sheriff can speak to the fact that the coroner had to respond 80 plus times last year in the desert to people who had passed away being abandoned there in the desert. That would certainly impact us. Sheriff and I had the opportunity last week to visit with Yuma Area Agriculture, and one of the things that he is doing, he's asked them to post no trespassing signs. Now, these are all just tools in a toolbox. They don't actually solve the challenge and the problem that we see with people coming across the border. Most of these efforts are coordinated through the cartel, and one of the things that Chief McGurk was concerned about is that we've seen a massive surge in people coming across in Ajo. And what that does to Border Patrol, if somebody crosses over here down at County 13th or wherever, that takes an hour basically per person to process. When they're crossing over at Ajo and they've seen a massive surge, there are no support services in that area. So it takes 40 hours to process a group of people coming across, and what that represents is a significant drain. She is worried about those types of effects where people are then pushed out to areas where we don't normally see them crossing, coming across the border, and she's concerned, and she used this word several times, crashing the system for Border Patrol, and she's very concerned about that. This just talks more about the end of Title 42. This map represents all of the apprehensions from 10-1 to 4-18. You can see that the majority of the people are coming across on the southern border, and then in that area around the sand dunes, just past Algodones. But then you can see that people are apprehended all throughout our county as they're coming across. This is the area in the lower right-hand corner where they've seen a significant surge, as well as the normal corridors. They're concerned about the ability of Border Patrol to intake individuals, and suggested to us that when they reached and surpassed capacity at the tent, that's the centralized processing center, that they would then no longer transport people off of the border to the centralized processing center for intake. Now, in Arizona, we've been extremely lucky, and especially because of Amanda Aguirre and others who have helped facilitate the transportation of the illegals who have crossed the border outside of Arizona, outside of Yuma County, to where they have not become our burden. However, going back 14 months, and this is what they are projecting, where the sheriff had people showing up directly to his office asking for assistance. We had people showing up directly to the hospital asking for assistance. We had people showing up directly to the food bank and also to all of the other shelters and NGOs. This is what they are projecting for May 8th, 9th, 10th. They said that we would probably have to decompress prior to that. The structured intake security posture refers to the fact that they would no longer be on the border, that they would be off of the border in order to maintain security for the agents being concerned about large amounts of people being there. And when you go back, the sheriff and I were down on the border quite often when we had more than 800 people coming across the day. Border Patrol was not able to process or intake into the headquarters, and people simply stayed out there. And that's when we started seeing people walk through the city of Yuma and create additional challenges for the people. We even had ICE, and I shared this with Border Patrol, who transported people to YRMC or other emergency service places, and they were actually contacted by ICE afterwards and wanted to know why they were facilitating in the smuggling of individuals. So there's lots of different concerns about what this would look like here in Yuma. This is their overview. We're having 2 more meetings this week, and everybody that was there last week, including the mayor, will be a part of it. We have seen an uptick in people coming from additional countries who have not been in Yuma previously. One of the challenges is that right now, all of the people that are coming across the border, 40% of them are expelled under Title 42 in Yuma, Arizona. So 40% of the people that are coming across are immediately expelled, and they're flown back to their countries of origin. That goes away on May 11th. They are no longer processed out. And so they are going to be moved into the system. This is what they're asking us, and Border Patrol was proposing to do street releases on the corner of 3rd and 3rd. The mayor raised concerns about that, as well as the sheriff last week, so we'll have continued conversations about that. These are some of the tools that they are going to use and then count on. They've got the video surveillance all along the border that they will use, as well as the sensors that are in the ground. But this is what they're looking to. This is the federal government coming to Yuma, federal, state, local, and tribal partners asking us what we can do to help solve their problem. They're looking to the NGOs. And so I wanted my fellow supervisors to be aware of what they're asking for, and we'll have additional conversations with them this week. Right now, I'd like the sheriff to talk to the fact that he cannot interdict without facing charges. There's only certain things that he is allowed to do, because I've had lots of different questions from the community regarding that.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, Leon Wilmot, Sheriff, Yuma County. In regards to that statement, it is correct. A lot of assumption out there is the fact that we as law enforcement can apprehend individuals that have entered the country illegally and transport them. We cannot. Technically, DOJ could actually charge us with kidnapping because we are not immigration officers, nor are we allowed per federal supremacy laws to be able to do that. The only thing that we can address on a local law enforcement level throughout the whole of the United States is anything that concerns an individual breaking a state law or a local law. So that's where we are hamstrung. We can assist Border Patrol by intercepting individuals, especially out in our eastern desert where we do encounter them quite a bit. And we can look into running them to make sure they're not smuggling narcotics, make sure they don't have any warrants for their arrest. But that's pretty much the end of what we're able to do. And we can only detain them for a certain amount of time while that's being done to make sure they don't have any criminal history. Hopefully during that period of time, Border Patrol can actually respond and apprehend. But we cannot detain them other than for our state aspect of it. So with lessons learned from the past, obviously, the impacts on the hospital, the local communities with the trespassing, the farmers' fields, and individuals hiding in residences out in the foothills area, that is all something that we are trying to get plans ready for to be able to prevent that from happening again. To what extent we're going to be able to do that, not knowing how the impacts are going to be for us, is an unknown. So right now, that's the plan. Individual trespasses, they're arrested for trespassing, cited, transported to Border Patrol, and released. That's our plan right now. Otherwise, I would fill the jail in a day with the amount of individuals that we encounter that are trespassing out in the foothills or in town on the farm fields. Just depending on the damage to the crops, if there are any, that's how we calculate incarceration. So,
Thank you, Sheriff.
yeah.
Appreciate that. Dr. Trenchel, would you like to talk about some of the challenges that we face as a community hospital?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you. Dr. Robert Trenchel, CEO, Yuma Regional Medical Center. We're required by law to see everybody that comes to our door. We cannot ask residency status. We cannot ask citizenship status. And we provide everybody the same level of care. So if you're coming to our door, you're going to get the same level of care. And we treat based on acuity. So if a more acute person is there, they're going to get to the front of the line, and a person who's less acute is going to have to wait. Several times during the past migrant surge, we had individuals that had to wait in our labor and delivery unit because we had critical migrant individuals in there that needed more emergent care. And residents of our community did have to wait for care, not only in labor and delivery, but also in the emergency department sometimes. Also, sometimes surgeries were delayed as well. We've flown migrants out for a higher level of care, and we'll house moms in the hospital, just to be closer to their babies. So, but the challenge for us is that there's still no payer source for these individuals. So, and the number, it's still $26 million. That's an auditable figure. And that's what we would normally charge. That's not what we would get paid, but that's normally what we would charge. It's the only number I can anchor to. But it's a significant impact on the hospital. Hospitals operate on very thin margins. And, we're gearing up. So we'll queue up nursing staff. We'll queue up additional staff to come in where we can find it and how we can find it. So that'll be queued up to deal with the surge. But 40% more individuals coming to our door what we had was an issue. This will be an even bigger issue. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Trenchel. Any questions for Dr. Trenchel? So Chief McGurk's concerns are the availability to respond to calls for assistance. Leon is allowed to assist. Other law enforcement agents are allowed to assist, but they're not able to be on the forefront. She is concerned about preventing an eastern and northern movement away from the border into other areas with higher density of living. This is what they're asking for to improve public and private transportation capability. Amanda is capped at transporting 650 people a day out of Yuma. There is no additional transportation that she has available, and she says that she can't do any more. That's the sum total of what she's able to do. Border Patrol has, over the last few months, done lateral movements over to Phoenix, over to Tucson, over to El Centro, Calexico, and Blythe, and even San Diego. Having people representing those sectors there, they told us that that is not possible anymore. They will bring people into the CPU or process them out depending upon the amount of people coming across. And they're estimating up to 4,000 people a day coming across the border in this area, where I believe the highest that we saw over the last couple of years was 1,800, Sheriff, in one day. And that's when we left people standing out there for a couple of days waiting to be processed because the central processing unit was full. They're concerned about a border violence response, larger number of people who grow impatient, wanting to be transported. That's where we saw a surge in 911 calls and even Uber Eats deliveries out to the border because they were left to fend for themselves while Border Patrol was processing. So it was an open discussion on operational coordination. That will continue this week. Mass care services, on scene security protection, and law enforcement. So these are the conversations that will continue this week. Want to refocus the fact that international labor organizations and the cartels are facilitating this trade. They're making a significant amount of money. 27 million were forced into labor over the last 2 years, 6.3 into sexual exploitation. So the cartels are facilitating this, and the national average in fentanyl deaths is 1 in 100,000. Here in Yuma County, we've averaged 19, 20, and 21 with many more poisonings. And that was the data that was provided by the hospital. So concern about first responders, their ability to show up and take care of the people of the community while being called out to the border. the county coroner, the NGOs, the food bank, and the agricultural community are all areas of discussion that we can continue talking about. But in the end, Chief McGurk was asking the Yuma community what we could do to help. And so I'm here. I relayed that information to our federal partners, Senator Kelly personally. I got a call with Senator Sinema Friday with the sheriff, last Friday with the sheriff. Have another call with her this week, and then the rest of our congressmen. So if you guys have any questions or concerns, I will relay those.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
has there been any talk with
Excuse me,
any
Mr.
of
Chairman?
these private groups?
Oh, we can't have discussion, that's right. All right.
Yeah, this is a presentation.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank you, Jonathan.
You can have a
thanks.
comment.
Yeah,
Just a comment, not a question.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Bill?
Comment is we need to get this out to the public.
Yes,
But it is out there.
comment is.
I mean, even more so than it is, because it's going to get nasty, I
Yes,
think. And you look at the problems that different places around the country right now with just people walking up to a door and knocking on it, and it scares people because they don't know who it is, and they turn around and shoot them. And I really see that possibly happening here with this amount of people coming across. People are going to be afraid.
A comment. I'll make a comment. I think every time we solve the problem, the federal government, who should be dealing with the problem, gets off.
Yep.
You know, we all talk about the community, we talk about the sheriff, we talk about the hospital, we talk about everybody. And the key element to this is that nobody's paying for it. They should be paying for it. It's not that we should be doing this. As cruel as it sounds, every time we solve the problem, it gets worse. It doesn't get any better. It's just unfortunately that, you know, the message is being given, I think, to the right authorities. It just isn't working as well as it should. You know, the matter is that, you know, when the migrants come, asylum seekers, I hate to call them illegal aliens because essentially that's any time they ask for asylum there. You know, I've asked this question from the Chief Secretary of the Border Patrol. Are they illegally here? They're not. They're legally here. Once they go through the process, once they turn themselves in, they become in process. But every time we solve this problem, I've been around 40 years. I started when I was 10. You know, I've been around 40 years. I've seen 6 or 7 different border crises in my lifetime. I dealt with 6 or 7 of them. Every time we have a crisis, the federal government says, deal with it. And we deal with it as a community. I'm really proud of the way that the Yuma community does it, but it doesn't mean the hospital can just refuse to do it. It doesn't mean the sheriff can't see some crime happening and ignore it. We've had this conversation about marijuana importation and how the government asks you to deal with, you know, issues at your level when it should be, it's a federal offense. They should be dealing with it themselves. But as mad as it sounds, I mean, every time we step up and solve the problem, either with county assets or with city assets or with any assets, every time you work up and the Border Patrol comes to you and asks you for help, you, as a community, we can't simply refuse to deal with it. We don't want the crisis to be in our streets. But every time we do this, it happens again and it's worse every time. I don't know if there's a solution to this, but it certainly isn't going to be us solving it. It's us dealing with it, but it's not us solving it. I see Bill saying that. You may be stepping a little too far, but.
well, yeah, and just a comment, I think yeah, you know, you're right, it's a federal issue. Yeah, we'll continue to be doing what we're doing, but just one more comment, Bill. This is just information, and every person that crosses and every asylum seeker needs a sponsor. Where is ICE on this? It's just not possible that one phone number can be sponsored to thousands of people coming. That is ridiculous. So let's start getting on ICE, because that's their job to be doing. If we're not pushing for that, I think we're pushing for the wrong thing. Sponsors, they need a sponsor to come across. But ICE is not doing their job, period. All right, thank you, Jonathan. We'll move on to.
I'm not sure we want to thank him for this. But,
Well,
you know.
I relayed information, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for that information. We'll move on to item number 5, County Line.
Yuma County Public Works takes an innovative approach to promote work zone awareness. Cooling centers are now open for those who need a place to beat the heat. And Yuma County held its annual employee recognition ceremony, as employees were recognized and celebrated for their exceptional work. These stories and more, this is your County Line. Yuma County Public Works took a proactive approach to educate the public during National Work Zone Awareness Week, with the theme being, "You play a role in work zone safety. Work with us." During the week of April 17th through 21st, National Work Zone Awareness Week was observed. The public awareness campaign aimed to raise awareness about the importance of safe practices for both motorists and roadway workers.
This year we're here at Hilo Ridge. We're going to be here for lunch at answering any questions for any students that have any questions on our work signs. And we collaborated with ADOT, collaborated with Quail Corp. They brought all the signs and put them all over the school, and also our public works staff brought some signs as well. So we're excited.
A compelling video was played for the students, featuring real clips of workers narrowly escaping accidents due to distracted driving, highlighting the reality of dangers in work zones. Yuma County Public Works is actively working towards creating a safer environment for all those who travel through and work on Yuma County's roadways. As temperatures in Yuma County begin to creep towards triple digits, residents are urged to take precautions when spending time outdoors. With the heat wave upon us, it's important to reschedule strenuous activities to early morning or evening. Wear lightweight, loose-fitting clothing, and most importantly, stay hydrated by drinking plenty of water. To provide relief from the scorching temperatures, cooling centers have been set up in various locations throughout Yuma County.
So obviously in Yuma it gets really hot here in the summertime, and these water sites and cooling stations really offer some refuge for any Yuma County residents that are needing to get out of the sun for a little bit, get into that AC, and to get water.
Residents can easily locate the nearest cooling centers by visiting yumacountyaz.gov and accessing the cooling center information under the health section. As the heat continues to intensify, Yuma County residents are encouraged to take necessary precautions to stay safe and cool during the sweltering summer months. April was National County Government Month, and Yuma County took the opportunity to recognize its hardworking employees during the annual Employee Recognition Ceremony held at the Yuma Art Historic Theater. There were 3 deserving nominees for Yuma County Employee of the Year, 4 nominees for Courts Employee of the Year, and 11 candidates for the Safety Excellence Award. The coveted title of Yuma County Employee of the Year was awarded to Robert Trebelka with the Public Defender. Courts Employee of the Year went to Henry Bo Gonzalez with Juvenile Justice Center. And the Safety Excellence Award winner was Minnie Samaniego. Yuma County takes pride in its hardworking and dedicated employees who contribute to the betterment of the community. Congratulations to all 3 for their well-deserved recognition at this year's annual event.
I'm Elia Juarez, and this is your Library Update. Our popular Overdrive service is going away very soon, but that doesn't mean that we're leaving you hanging when it comes to our ebook offerings. On May 1st, the Overdrive ebook service will stop existing as we know it. That's because it's been purchased by the Libby system, which we already offer to the public. Nothing is really going to change for those of you who already use Overdrive. Since Libby is absorbing it, you'll still have your holds and checkouts without a problem. What you may need to do is download the Libby app if you're used to getting your content directly from Overdrive. And actually, this could be a very good thing because Libby has more titles than Overdrive did, and therefore you will have a better selection of titles. For more information on the Overdrive to Libby conversion, as well as to take our patron satisfaction survey and to sign up for our brand new newsletter, make sure to check out our website at yumalibrary.org.
Before we head out, we want to inform you of a scheduling update regarding the next Board of Supervisors meeting. Initially planned to be held on Monday, May 15th, the next Board of Supervisors meeting has been rescheduled to Monday, May 22nd. If you are planning to attend in person or watch the live stream on Yuma 77, please make note of the new date. Thank you for joining us for this County Line. We'd like to know of any story ideas you may have. And if you're looking for stories we've covered in the past, log on to our website at yumacountyaz.gov/VOD. We'll see you on the next County Line.
All right. We'll move on to consent calendar. The following items listed under the consent agenda will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion with no separate discussion unless the board member so requests. In that event, the item will be removed from the consent calendar for separate discussion and action.
Chairman,
Go
I'd like
ahead.
to make a motion, we approve items 1 through 13 with the exception of number 6.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second to approve consent agenda 1 to 13 with exception item number 6. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 6, Mr. Supervisor Reyes.
Oh, item number 6 is it's a public service help to authorize the district director to accept and implement the tuberculosis service award between the Arizona Community Foundation and the County Public Health Services District, effective April 1, 2022 to March 20, 2024. And I think there's a request that a photo be taken, so it has to be taken out of the sequence of the consent item. So,
Good morning, Chairman Fortas, members of the board, Diana Gomez, Director of Public Health. I'd like to invite Monica Shore up here. This is a grant, again, that we're very grateful to receive. It's going to expand our TB testing and screening services. As you know, we try to go out in the community. We don't ever want that barrier of having to come to our office to be an issue. And so this just is really going to make those services go really far. And so we're really grateful that they believed in us, and we're looking forward to making them proud and giving them an update as to how we're expanding our services.
Thank you. Yeah, so the Arizona Community Foundation of Yuma has been here since 1993, and we always look for opportunities to better the community. And when we had some funding available for tuberculosis, who better than the Yuma County Health Department to put that into in our community. So I'll go grab the check and we'll take a picture.
Yes.
Thank you.
Can we take a picture?
sure. We ask you to remain because you're next.
I have a giant check.
Big check.
The finance has the original.
Oh, we can't just run this way. All right. Oh, yes. Okay. Well.
Yes, thank you for thinking of us.
It's not a group hug.
Thank you, guys. You in 2 minutes.
But I think the problem is they have like 48 hours to release it, so
Yeah.
they have to process it. And whether they just need it to use.
Yeah.
Don't go away.
Uh,
You're not getting away that easy.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion. We approve the item as presented. Item 6.
I will second that.
There's a motion and a second to approve item number 6 as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I'm back.
You just thought you were going to slip away.
Yeah, I was going to go sit down. Again, good.
Item number 1,
Oh.
just go ahead.
I'm just going to sit down.
That's you. Go ahead. That's you. Item and discussion and action items. That's item number 1.
Yeah.
That's you. Thank you.
All right, good morning, Diana Gomez.
morning again.
Back again. Thank you so much. I wanted to, last time I was here, I talked about our community health assessment, which is a process where we work with different community agencies. We want to evaluate, what's driving the health, some of the barriers that are impacting our health, identifying all those. And so that's an active process. And we've had a couple of meetings with our stakeholders. We want to make it as inclusive as possible. So if you actually go to our website, the main Yuma County Health Department website, you'll see an opportunity, a link for the public to go ahead and use that link. This gives members of our community an opportunity to go ahead and list what their priorities are, what they feel are things we should be addressing. Now, we're going to take the data of the actual, morbidity, the level of illness, what our diabetes rate is, the different types of things, and then we're also going to take those priorities, what the community feels are things that, we need to address. We put them together. We're going to do a comprehensive assessment, which we'll release to the public. And then after that, the next phase is what we call a community health improvement plan, where we work together and say, these are the top things we're going to address. This is why, and this is who we're going to partner with to make that happen. So again, I want to remind people, if you want to go ahead and be a part of that, we encourage it. We want to hear what you think. We want to know how we can improve our scope and reach of services. Please go to the Yuma County main page, go under the health department, and you'll see the link, and you can click on it, and you can give us what you think we should be focusing on, and that's very valuable to us, and then we can act on that. The mobile unit, we finally got the mobile unit. I know, very excited. I'd like to thank Public Works. They took receipt of it and they helped us throughout the process, so very grateful. And we have so many plans for that. As you know, we've been going out to the community. On Fridays, typically staff is out there at 4 o'clock in the morning setting up, doing some of those hard to reach populations that don't have the option of coming to our building, and doing some evening and weekend things as well. This will help facilitate that, give us more options. We've been very, very fortunate throughout the process that we've had community agencies, city agencies that have helped us set up in their parking lots and have given us access to the facilities. This will make that process a little more flexible. So we want to go ahead and do that as well. Again, with COVID, our community rate is in low transmission. So again, just be mindful, keep those your guard up, I guess. Basic precautions, again, people are traveling, we're having bigger events, so just a reminder for people, those vaccines are still available. Now we have what's called a bivalent vaccine that takes in the different strains. So now instead of getting the dosage that you got before, now you get one bivalent vaccine, so it's something to look forward to. If you have any questions about that, please call our office. We're still doing clinics, we're still going out. Happy to answer any questions if anybody has any concerns. But again, it's one of those things where COVID is just going to be part of our fabric from now on, and how we respond to it and how we provide resources is just going to be one of those things that we just going to continue to update you on. Other things, I wanted to take an opportunity. Yes.
But you may have a go and I'll forget it before I get to the end. I have two questions for you. One is that bivalent vaccine, or what you call it, how long after the last booster shot does a person have to wait to get another shot?
So if you've already received the bivalent vaccine, you're okay. If you've had something else, if you're over the age of 65, then we want you to wait at least 4 months. But everybody under that, if you've had the bivalent, you're good to go. We're waiting for additional guidance. This is protecting you against the most common circulating strains of the virus. There's a new iteration out there right now. This one is seeing a higher incidence of, how you normally have the dry cough, pink eye. So it's something to keep, it's a new, not necessarily a new symptom, but something that with this particular strain is becoming more common. Reminder, we want you to get vaccinated if you're at high risk. Again, vaccines aren't going to necessarily prevent you from getting sick. They're just priming your immune system for a response. So what vaccines are meant to do is prevent severe illness, possible death, and definitely hospitalization. It's just giving your body a little heads up, help you prepare for it. And again, we want people to have options. We want people to ask questions. We know that this is, people take different things into consideration when deciding on what to do, but we want to be available to answer those questions.
Right. The second one has to do with this maybe surge of migrants, or maybe not. Has the county health department doing anything in conjunction with the hospital or in conjunction with emergency management? I see Tony back there. I wasn't sure whether I needed to wait until he dealt with it, but obviously there's some health issues at whatever crossing location that they have. Are you guys coordinating with anyone to help them out?
So Tony, emergency management, as well as our emergency public health preparedness program, have been in a lot of those meetings and are aware of the situation. We participate with conversations with the state. Again, our concern is those highly communicable, diseases. We've mostly seen vaccine preventable diseases. But we always keep an eye on that, and Tony could probably give you a lot more detail as to what to do. For us, because there's different languages involved now, for us, some of the things that we have to rush to is if there's a communicable disease, let's say for example TB, and we have to go through the consent process for treatment or whatever, we have to make sure we have those materials translated. We were so used to it just being Spanish, and we've done that successfully in the past where we get a translation service. But again, those are things that with the variety of people coming in from the different countries, being able to respond and being able to give people information in their native language is incredibly important. So it's one of those things that we've had to really step up.
And this comes up because I know that we sort of prepared a lot for COVID-19, whatever strain it is that's dominant right now, but we may not be looking at tuberculosis, some of those diseases that we haven't seen in the country in a long time that may need to be screened. I know that Amanda Aguirre's outfit does a good job of screening people for COVID. They test everyone. But I mean, I haven't seen us reacting to the fact that it's become a multinational. I think you just addressed it a little bit. There is some concern, at least in my part, that some of those health screenings that we're doing right now are not necessarily covering the kind of diseases or the kind of illnesses that may be present in a large population like that.
Mm-hmm.
There are thousands of people crossing every day. I know we don't have a system to screen each and every one. That would take an enormous amount of time and resources. But I do wanted to make a point that we should be ready in case any of these things appear and we get a call saying, hey, look, it looks like this. And obviously the hospital is going to respond, but sometimes mobile response, you just said you had a mobile unit, so that brought it.
Yeah. All that is very time sensitive. And when you're talking, for example, COVID screening, where you have the advantage of having a rapid test where you can find out in 15 minutes, but then you have a lot of these other illnesses or diseases that you screen for that take the turnaround time is longer. So then either if they were hospitalized maybe and they got the test results, it's that turnaround time, or if they had a baby and they did not have prenatal care, and then you're looking at something like that, it's that turnaround and the follow-up for us. That's the challenge, because we want to make sure that we follow up with whoever they're going or contact that agency. And sometimes that connection is just severed because we don't have that awareness of where they're going. And so normally with any person that we work with, we have that continuity of care where if we initiate treatment or the hospital or clinic initiates treatment, we follow up and we make that connection whether they're going somewhere in the state or a different state. And the challenge for us here is that the testing capacity, the turnaround time is just not quick enough to identify it quickly. And then we lose the ability to work with the individual and ensure that continuity of tests. So we might get a positive test result on something, but then we don't know where they went, and now they're somewhere else in a different part of the country. So that for us is, again, remains a concern. And whenever possible, and there is those instances where we've had the ability to connect, we do what we can to make sure that where they're going, they can get the treatment that they need. But again, that time sensitivity is an issue for us in our
I'm sure that that's an issue that I've heard before from the Border Patrol, the vetting process. It's very difficult to do when you've got this large number of people. But the health situation the vector situation, the control situation, really to me has become an issue that eventually, I mean, with that large number of people that they're expecting, or the large number of people that are coming to this country, the vetting process for legal immigration is very extensive. It does cover a lot of illnesses that are supposed to be tested. You're supposed to be tested for before you get to your appointment. That is, to me, the biggest issue that we have to deal with. The process, both in the health field and the background checks, that, some of these people come from countries that we have no particular diplomatic relations to. It's going to be difficult for us to go through that vetting process. But in the health field, which is the one, and in the emergency field, an emergency health field. That to me is probably going to become a critical issue. If anyone goes inside the country carrying one of these diseases that we don't work to eradicate, it's a concern that I'm sure you share.
Yeah, that's always a concern, and we have seen them. We've dealt with isolated cases where it's things that we had never had to deal before because it's a disease or an issue that's not endemic here, and so we have to go back and do a little coordination there. But yes, again, it's that screening, and when the normal process, as you described, is very lengthy, and there is a medical checklist. But again, this isn't happening in this instance. So,
well, I was going to suggest that people who have immediate contact with ICE, that there should be some sort of way of tracking people. We've had this problem with family separation where we can't find some of those kids, but in reality, part of the vetting process should be some sort of a test, some sort of a DNA test or something that has to be applied so that we know whomever it's carrying something that we just don't see very often. Anyway, I think I'm just diverting.
You want to pay or the feds?
Well, the
we
feds
can
should pay.
yeah.
we'll add that to the list.
A health issue as far as I'm concerned. He ends up being a responsible of the hospital, which again, it's not the most.
And any other question? And I also want to take an opportunity to introduce you to our new Deputy Public Health Chief, Kathy Ward, sitting in the back. As you know, Maria retired. So Kathy, yeah. So Kathy Ward has been with our department for a long, long time. I never say how many years, but very, very long time. Over 30. Okay, see, she volunteered it. So for over 30 years, she started when she was 10 too. And again, she's worked in a variety of programs. She's done district nursing. She's overseen communicable disease, maternal child health, just a wealth of information. And I'm very grateful that she decided to take on this challenge. And I just wanted to make sure that you got to know her and that you know that you can reach out to her as well.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Kathy.
Congratulations, yeah.
And happy to answer any questions.
Tony covered them all.
I don't have any
Okay.
I'll have Tony come up.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Dan. Tony?
Tony Padilla, Director of Emergency Management. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, great presentation. The concerns you expressed were concerns of ours. As you know, May 11th, Title 42 is going to go away. DHS Secretary Mayorkas and the Biden-Harris administration has announced sweeping, as they announced it, they call it sweeping new measures. We'll see if we get how this plays out. It's a pretty, just a fact sheet like this. They're going to be doing a lot of different changes. We'll see how that plays out. We have meetings this week on that, and hopefully more information will follow. We'll see. They're going to enforce Title 8, which I don't know why they weren't enforcing it before, but Title 8 is going to be enforced, and immediate removal from the country if they enter the country illegally, is my understanding, with a 5-year penalty, 5 years, I think. 5-year penalty to re-enter. So, other than that, unless you have any other questions of me, I'll be happy to answer those.
So if you expect the surge of people, are you prepared to increase the number of toilets, those kind of things that we do now?
We have been talking with the city of Yuma's talking about designating a location for a temporary, I guess a temporary stop for people until they can get transported out. As you know, as you talked about, I can tell you this now that you say you can handle 1,000 people, they're going to give you 1,500. That's happening in Tucson on a regular basis. They're telling them we can only hold this many, and then they'll call them an hour later, say we've got another 100. Call them another later, got another 100. And then you also got to realize that other parts of the country on the southern border, if they need to decompress, they're flying them into Tucson. They're taking people, flying them in there, and Border Patrol's handling them at those locations. And you're talking about the Ajo issues. That makes it a hard issue for Tucson because they have a transportation component as well to get them from Ajo back to Tucson. So everybody's fighting for the same resources. The emergency food and shelter funds have gone to Amanda and her staff. They are talking about increasing that amount. However, they are going to be splitting it, my understanding, 60-40. 40 will go to the states that are being affected by the migrants' migration into their communities, and the 60% will be stay on the southern border.
Well, we've said it before, it's a federal issue, and it certainly shows up when you talk about how it's impacting all the way through all the border states. We experienced a very harsh drop in the number of migrants crossing here for a while.
Yes.
I mean, we were dealing with a large number before that. So I guess in some ways you can ramp it up and ramp it down a little bit. Will we be able to ramp it up if it just happens to surpass the old number? That's a question to be answered if and when it happens. But the question that I had was more, if that happens, are we ready? And I guess the answer is, well, we'll see.
We'll see, yeah.
We'll
And
see.
we've reached out to the state and they're looking at it. They're having some issues with the new administration trying to figure out what they want to do through AZDEMA and some of the other state agencies and coordinating what their response will be. Transportation is the biggest issue out of Yuma. Biggest issue is transportation. And, you know, I don't know what the answer to that is. Like you said, Amanda's done a fantastic job of moving people out of here. She's not moving them to those other communities. She's actually will coordinate with other states and getting those people to those locations. So she's not impacting the Phoenix and Tucson area.
The transportation issue has affected humans specifically because they've had to utilize every source of public transportation as the numbers have surged. So our average right now is 400 a day.
Correct.
To 600. We have a little bit of ebb and flow. The numbers have gone up, but that still represents, you know, a significant increase of 20 or 30 a day, you know, prior to going back 2 years, Tony.
Mm-hmm.
So we're dealing with a significant amount, but the trains are full. On the one train that comes through, they're talking about ramping that up through Amtrak, but so far that's not something that they've been able to do. They've asked Greyhound if they would supply additional buses. That's not available. Meanwhile, they've continued to use the airlines. San Diego, they are dealing with their own challenges, and Amanda has reached out to Las Vegas as well to try to address that.
Right. Yeah.
So National Guard.
Sir?
National Guard. Have they been, you know,
FEMA and them?
Yeah, well, National Guard, I don't know.
Oh, National Guard, I'm sorry. I thought you said national assets. Okay. National Guard would require the governor to intervene. The National Guard are here in Yuma, but they're working for law enforcement only. They're in dispatch. They're in working on police vehicles. They're actually working border security with the sheriff's office. However, July 1, that's supposed to end. So that's something that you guys might want to consider if you have that avenue to reach out, is to extend that, because they have been very valuable in our community. We've had them at all of our law enforcement agencies throughout the county. The sheriff has done really well with them. He's actually probably been the model for other counties to say, why is Yuma utilizing them so well? They want to utilize them too, but they only have a limited number.
Well, the message was given to the governor about the National Guard. The sheriff made sure that I did that. But the issue to me is that if I don't remember what the breakdown was, but you said 60-40% or something. 60 was going to the state and 40 was coming to the different NGOs. That's twisted. If the state manages the 60% of the funds that come to the border, they should provide 60% of the services that come to the border. That's not the case. The National Guard, to me, is one of those obvious situations where, yes, the sheriff is utilizing them very well, but we need to increment that so that transportation, which is the biggest issue that we've got, get some attention from the state. If they're going to get the funding, they should provide some of the services. At least FEMA.
It's not for Arizona.
That was 60-40 for the southern border.
Well, does any of it come to the states? Does any of it come to the state? Does FEMA take part of this?
It is, it's the Emergency Food and Shelter Act. I think they manage it. You got to remember that we already have a county declaration for this. We also have a state declaration. In order for it to be a federal declaration, the president has to recognize and declare a disaster or declare that there is a crisis here.
And until that happens, we cannot utilize the federal National Guard to do anything other than what they're doing right now.
Correct. And that also hampers any other additional federal funding that's out there.
Yeah, it's a complicated issue.
Yuma County is about $1 million. We have to have $1 million loss costs, and then the state has to have $14 million, a little over $14 million loss. But a lot of those losses are being supplemented right now with federal funds. So they're not really losing anything. They're being supplemented with those federal programs that are out there right now.
But we could point them to the hospital, Tony.
Yeah, well, and the sheriff and I were on a call the other day, And I echoed that. I echoed the hospital's issues. I echoed our first responders, our ambulance services, EMS. You know, they're limited to what they can do. And a lot of times, like San Luis only has 2 or 3 ambulances. And when they're utilized for migrants and having to be taken to the hospital or people trying to get in our hospital, it brings up a lot of issues. So we echoed that quite frequently.
Chairman, as to our last discussion, San Luis, Somerton, and Cocopah still haven't been reimbursed for any of their transportation costs directly associated to taking people off the border.
If they're not in Border Patrol custody, there's no refunds for
I'll say Somerton has.
Oh, they
Yeah,
did?
Well, we worked on a program with Somerton. They got some of it, but they're still not getting it all.
Only one call that they had last month, that was it.
Okay.
Just one, but they got reimbursed.
Yeah, one time Somerton was in the hole, and we worked out a program, I think, through FEMA at the time, and that's gone away. But we continue to echo that, and until that happens, we're out of luck.
You guys being ready for the search, the possible search, the answer is, well, you had the search before that. You really had a large number to deal with before that. So, and I don't think you're dealing with those numbers. I went by Somerton. I've been going by Somerton location there, and I don't see any activity at all. And those tents were full of people being processed. So I suppose that the mechanics are available to deal with a search. I don't know if the search exceeds what we dealt with before. It may become an issue. It will become an issue. But at this particular time, you guys feel somewhat confident you can handle a search, not a search of the magnitude that is being talked about, but a search nonetheless. I tried to find out a little more details about this, and I found out that Tucson is much more overwhelmed than us because the application that where you make your appointments to come across is in Tucson. It's not, it's in Nogales. It's not in San Luis. So the cartel, being as wise as they seem to be, obviously are moving people that way, but this is going to become a different issue after May 11th. I understand that. I just want the county, what the county does, and I think we don't do much in terms of the county. I know the sheriff does a lot of stuff, but in terms of the county, we provide toilets so people don't have to run into the fields to do something. Putting them at the location that Yuma may have is not going to help. They have to be there at the location people cross mostly all the time, so that people don't walk into the fields and basically create a new problem for us. So the question was, okay, are you guys ready for a search? I mean, and as much as you can handle, as much as you guys can do.
Well, the surge the handling of the surge would depend on Border Patrol's assets. You know, once they get in Border Patrol custody, but if they're at the border and they're not able to handle it, that would probably become a law enforcement perspective.
The county doesn't handle that stuff.
Yeah, right.
The county handles one single item that I can think of directly, and that is the provision of toilets at the different locations where people cross. So to me, the question would be, are you able to communicate with those people to see if they demand searches that you would be able to provide more toilets? I mean, that would be like a direct question. Can you?
Yeah, it depends. It's going to be depends on how many people cross and what the resources are, and we'll kind of
search.
Yes, yeah, and we probably will have street releases if what Councilman Lyons has said. Excuse me, Chairman Lyons, Vice Chairman Lyons has said that if that comes to fruition, then yeah, definitely going to be a problem.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all up in the air.
Right.
Because I've talked to several border patrols and they say, we don't know. We don't know until it happens.
And if Title 8 gets enforced, we might not have an issue, but if it doesn't get enforced, we're going to have issues.
I think we're just, I mean, it's good to prepare or have a plan, but I think we're just going over too many things that are.
That question, I don't know if Tony knows it or not. The map that Jonathan showed us,
Yeah, with all the dots.
it had all those crossings in California. Is El Centro taking all the ones in that area, or are we getting those?
Yuma sector goes out so many miles. I don't know if it's 9 or 10 miles into California, and that's what DEMA didn't understand when they came down to visit with us. We were at the river, and they're going, "Oh, those aren't our problem. They're crossing right there." I go, "No, they are our problem." People don't realize that Border Patrol's Yuma sectors goes into California, so those people crossing at Andrade or around the wall there at the river are coming into Yuma.
The Yuma sector.
Yuma sector, yes.
Our sector stops just prior to that new checkpoint that Border Patrol has set up from the the Calexico station.
Was that like mile 25 in it? About 25 in? Okay.
Just prior to that.
Yeah.
Rock research?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And whether they come into Yuma or not, it depends on if they get overwhelmed and they decompress into California. They decompress at the other sector stations. So it's kind of a shared thing. I mean, and that's what I'm saying is it happening to Tucson. If Tucson's not getting numbers, they're flying them in from El Paso in planes and dropping them off in Tucson. Tucson's processing them. So it's just kind of a shuffle game. So.
All right. Thank you, Tony. Oh, was that a question?
No, no.
All right,
Thank you. All right. Moving on to item number 2. Discussion and possible action to approve the following: authorize the disbursement of $4,700,000 in grant funding from the state of Arizona to Yuma County Fair. And B, provide up to $2 million in funding to Yuma County Fair, Inc., an Arizona nonprofit corporation for the construction of site improvements necessary for reallocation through a loan or through use of Yuma County American Rescue Plan Act replacement revenue funds, or a combination of both, subject to the terms and conditions of mutual agreeable loan documents or other agreements as necessary.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Josh Scott, Deputy County Administrator. So as the board's aware, portions of the fairgrounds are located in MCS's accident potential zone. And last year, the county did receive a $5 million grant to begin the relocation process and move some of those facilities out of the accident potential zone and help preserve the Marine Corps' operational capabilities. The engineering work for the relocation has been completed, and the project was put out for bid, and construction costs came in at about $7.4 million. It was about $4.4 million for the civil site improvements and another $3 million for relocation of the commercial exhibits building. So there's about $4.7 million in grant funding left. So there was about a $2.7 million shortfall. Now, the Fair Board recognizes the urgency of this project, and they're willing to put in up to $700,000 of their own funds to support the project. However, that still leaves about a $2 million gap. So the Fair Board's also on the clock with this as well. They anticipate they need to get started on this project by the 1st of next month in order to be ready for next year's fair. So they have 2 requests before you today. The first is to distribute the remaining grant funding to them so they can sign their contracts and get started with the improvements. And the second request is to provide up to $2 million in funding through a loan or ARPA funding or a combination of both, similar to what we did with GYPA and the Magrino improvements out there. And if the board's agreeable, the fair can get started on the project. And we'll be working on the loan documents in the meantime. They'll have the $4.7 million to go forward, and we'll bring that back to you for consideration and possible approval. And Eric Wofford, the general managers here, and several board members from the fair, if you have any questions.
I have something. Let's begin by the 4.7. It's not an issue. I mean, that was actually a state set aside. The $2 million. The question is, do we set them up in the budget of expenses for ARPA? Was it one of our priorities? Was it listed?
No, it was not listed. And Mr. Chairman, the only portion that I see currently that would be ARPA eligible is a water line that's going to go in. Most of the other improvements, the commercial building, things like that, I don't see that they fit the eligible.
All right. Well, I was going to ask that question next. The ARPA funds are to be set aside for specific purposes. You can't just simply say, okay, well, here's $2 million, use it for a contract. That means building something that isn't approved. So the question for me is, okay, what of that project can the Board of Supervisors put in the ARPA list? Because the ARPA list was a specific list. We went through that and we set priorities for that.
Yes.
I don't remember a priority being moving the fair to the new location. And I remember specifically that we can't use ARPA funds for just anything we like. So I understand the need for expediency. I get it. But, before we make I mean, again, that $4.7 million, you can begin with that. But the $2 million, and I understand the $700,000, contribution that you guys make. That's fine. I just need to know that whatever funds we set aside from the ARPA funds can be used. So what I'd like before I make that decision is for you guys to figure out just exactly what can we cover with ARPA funds. and for the board and you guys to work it out so that the majority or the most that we can use for that, be the one that's up on the agenda and not just a round number that essentially would mean that we commit a couple of $1 million to the fair, which is a nonprofit corporation. That is an issue to me. I need to see that and see how much we can cover before we go ahead and approve this. I hope it doesn't delay you guys too much, but I need to see that. I need to see if it's budgeted. I need to see if it's an approved expense under ARPA rules. Once you tell me that, I'll be more than glad to approve the second phase of this. I mean, I would approve the first one without blinking. I know the funds have been set aside, but if the budget is $7 million, considering where we're at right now with inflation being what it is, it's not going to go lower than that. It's going to be a little bit more. If you wait longer, time is not on our side. I guess that's what I meant to say. I mean, most of our projects, every one of our projects that I can think of has gone up. It hasn't gone down over the last 6 months, 12 months. So I suppose it's the same thing with the contract affairs negotiated or with the bids as they came in. Again, I need that information as soon as you can make it available.
So I guess
Do you have it?
he's, whatever that can be covered by ARPA funds to be used. Is that the way
Well, we need to put it on a.
No, but I mean, is that what, or to
yeah.
use whatever we can cover with ARPA fund?
Yes, we understand the need for
So,
the fair to get this thing done.
You said a water line, but if there's anything else, sewer line or anything that's gonna be covered with the 4.7 that can be covered from that before spending that from the ARPA funds.
Mr. Chairman, Josh and the Fair Board, they do have the hard costs because it was put out to bid. So Josh can identify what those hard costs would be in order to facilitate any type of a decision.
You do have them.
And Mr. Chair, I wanted to point out that some ARPA funds that are available are called revenue replacement funds, and those funds have very few limits other than lobbying. So those funds, that's what staff
part
would
of the
recommend.
process was the freeing up of funds, but they need to go to the general fund and use to replace funds that we lost. It's a little difficult for me to see that. I don't think we lost that much during the pandemic. Actually, we gained a little bit. So to me, yes, they're freed up, but they're freed under the concept that it will replace lost revenue. This doesn't fit that. It may be able that we can tinker it to become so, but I think that maybe the suggestion that the vice chairman has made about looking at the whole project and seeing which parts of the whole project, including parts that were supposed to be covered by the $4.7 million, which part of that before we issue the whole contract can be covered under the
ARPA.
normal ARPA funds, which is infrastructure work.
Mr. Chairman, and to Tony's point, and talking about the revenue replacement funds, the fair did have a significant loss of
they
revenue during that time. And per our administrator suggested, would then qualify for that.
If we can make them ours.
Oh, yeah.
That's the problem.
Absolutely.
We don't budget for the fair.
No, I know. But they did have that loss.
Yeah, but that's what the 4.7. Look, it's a relocation project, right? Not because they lost money, but because we want to move out of danger zone. I get that. And I want to spend as much as I can of our ARPA funds into the project. I want to make it clear. So if it's a problem for us to approve the 4.7, I don't think it is a problem. But the problem for me is to find enough of a reason to be able to set aside that fund. There is some money left over, but it was sort of like we were hoping to do a little bit of the Orange Grove area down there and use it as seed money. But we understand the need for expediency. I just want to see how much of that can we do that without claiming it's lost revenue, because we didn't experience lost revenue. They did, but they're a separate nonprofit. So, it's kind of I'd like legal to make sure that we don't get into trouble by actually just sort of like guiding the money to a nonprofit that lost funds. I'd like it to be something we can claim to be either infrastructure or something that's already approved that we can use it for without claiming something like loss of revenue, which is the easiest category of all. But, at some particular point in time, we all have to.
Now, how long is that going to take? do we already have them?
We have a meeting with.
22nd's the next one.
You know, how long is that gonna take to figure out the?
Oh, look, I'll be
No,
willing to-
we have a meeting on the 22nd, so, but I mean, we can approve the, with the state.
4,700,
Yeah.
I mean, 47 million.
And then, but also, I do want to know if it's, because it says, you know, their recommendation, it's through a loan or obviously if the funds are there that is the board, the fair okay with the combination?
I
mean,
don't think you can ARPA fund a loan with interest or something. I think that you need to look at that.
No, not, it's similar to what we do, to
You gave a
the,
grant.
yeah.
You gave them a grant.
No, we gave them a
No,
grant and a loan.
Yeah, well, a portion of
Gave
the
them a
loan
grant
was-
and a
No,
loan for GYE.
But, yeah, no,
Down there.
it's a loan. Basically, that's what staff
Port
recommended.
Authority, there you go.
So,
That was both a grant and a loan.
Yeah.
What was it? I don't remember.
Because there was parts of
I
it
know
that
what it
couldn't
was for,
be.
but how much was it?
it was like
It's a $2 million grant. I think.
the GP.
Who can remember that? Frank, you
It's like
remember?
$3.5 million that they owe us. Well, now they owe us like 10.
Yeah.
See, that's what the fair is looking at. You're looking at if we loan you the money from
Yeah.
ARPA, which we get for free.
They couldn't
you
use
will
part of
then
it
pay
because
interest
it
on
was roads.
Now, what is it, Frank?
It was,
Uh,
wasn't roads.
Chairman Porches, members of the board, Frank Sanchez, county engineer. Magrino was two. One was a loan, and the other one was grant ARPA funds. It was we set aside about 3.3 million of ARPA, but we're only using 2.3.
Okay, but what is it? A loan or a grant? Because
Both.
Well, the ARPA was a grant, 2.3 million. The rate that was only used for the water and sewer construction.
Yeah.
As far as the roadway improvements, that was part of the loan.
Okay, and how much was the loan?
That was another
2.3 million.
Another 2.3 million.
What's the ARPA grant? What was the ARPA grant size?
2.3.
2.3.
So
We only
gave
used
2.3 and loaned them 2 point something.
Correct.
Yes. Okay. But the ARPA fund was all the grant.
Yeah.
Was it? Somebody.
It
No,
could
it was,
only
yeah,
be
for
used-
the water, for the
It
sewer.
could only be
The ARPA
used for water and sewer.
Approved items, sewer and water, water and sewer, it's
Because it
approved.
couldn't be used.
Right.
for
That
roads.
was $2.3 million worth of work, was just the sewer and water line. The remaining, the roadway work, was another 2.3 million.
Yeah, but
And that was the loan.
It was a combination, and I think I have the attorney looking at me, so, okay, thank you, Frank. Loan and grant, so.
And we can do the same thing with the fair.
Well, we can, but I'm trying to ask the board if they're okay with that.
I
If it's
am.
gonna be a loan, I mean, if the board is
The loan
okay.
was for infrastructure.
Loan and grant.
You can't loan money for everything, is what I'm trying to get to. You
Yeah,
can
it's
loan
gonna
money
be
for
infrastructure.
water or sewer. You can't even loan money for road improvements. I mean, you can even, excuse me, it was the opposite. You can't grant loan for anything other than water and sewer.
Right.
You can loan money for anything.
Correct.
Right.
Yes, so, Mr. Chairman Porches, to Supervisor Lyons' point, the fair does have the bids, and I've been working with Jim Allen from the Fair Board to separate out those infrastructure improvements that do fit those ARPA categories, so that we can get to a number that we think is ARPA eligible.
Mm-hmm.
Get that to us as soon as possible. I'll be willing to have a special meeting just to deal with that.
Yes, I would be too. We can't tentatively approve it and
We can
then,
approve the 4.7 with no problem.
Oh, we can,
well, we can tentatively approve the 2 mil too if we, with final approval on,
So yeah, Mr.
When
Chairman,
Josh
I
has the
think
numbers.
what we're looking at is worst case, it would be, all of it would be a loan, right? If we can't find any ARPA eligible pieces to this. And I think the Fair Board's comfortable with that. I mean, they can speak to it.
Okay, so, yeah.
They're just looking at this point to know that the county will kind of backstop this project so that they can get rolling, because again, they've got
And-
the loan versus ARPA piece in the coming board meeting.
And I guess, Ian, we can do that. Is that,
yes.
okay?
Can't approve it.
I'd like to see I'd like us
And
to
Mr. Chairman,
approve that as
To
well.
Josh's point, and I think it got a little bit lost in what he was saying in the beginning, we have designated, for example, a water line
Mm-hmm.
that is ARPA eligible and other improvements that are ARPA eligible, pending approval of administration and the county attorney's office. So
Mhm.
that is there. Just looking for a best and worst case scenario so that we can move forward and free up that clear zone.
Where's the loan coming from? ARPA?
No.
So if we go ahead and approve this right now without knowing how much money, that's gonna have to come out of the general budget, right? The 1 point something million loan. But the money's gotta come from somewhere. Where's it coming from if we loan it?
Correct. I believe it would be general fund money.
So you're looking at, approving
And then they
whatever
will-
remains between what ARPA approved to be able to give us a grant and the loan money. And the loan money comes from the general fund. Just
Mhm.
want to make sure that we understand that as clearly. And we don't know exactly how much, because at this particular point, the only thing that's been separated from that project is the water infrastructure. We haven't yet dealt with any sewer.
So it'll
Mr.
be,
Chairman, Tony, we do know exactly how much because we have all of the hard bids.
Okay, so how much is it?
The water line portion?
The one we can approve from ARPA, the water line portion, that's it?
Water, sewer, whatever. Yeah, and that's the only one that I currently see as ARPA eligible is the water line improvements.
Mr. Chairman, can we explore the revenue replacement funds as mentioned by Ian?
Yes, so Mr. Chairman, we can dig into those if that's the board's choice to use the revenue replacement
Yes.
funds because they do have fewer strings attached.
What's a revenue replacement fund, if I may ask, as I get older?
It was ARPA money given to the county to
To be able
supplement
to use for
lost
whatever.
revenues,
Mhm.
any lost revenues through COVID.
So
So
we
they
need to
told
find
us,
a home.
yeah, they told us to keep the money and
find
we
a
could
place
do other
for it.
things with
For
it.
lost revenues.
I know where to find a home for lost revenue.
Well, I know, but
But
it can't be you.
But I'm
than your
saying,
pocket.
obviously, that I was thinking about road improvements. Everybody here wants more road improvements, and I thought I was gonna be able to find a home for them in somewhere, some road that needed to be
Can't go to
improved.
work.
But, well, we were talking about a lot of stuff. I have no problem with that, as long as it comes out from the ARPA revenue funds, no problem with that. I think it's a worthy project, and I think it's fine. If it's a combination, it's gonna be a combination. If not, I'd rather it be a grant. I'll tell you what, if I was a board member, I'd say, hey, loaning us money isn't getting us anywhere. It's just getting us into more debt. But it's a grant.
And Mr. Chairman, the Fair Board is looking for other funding sources too. There's some water conservation grants out there they're looking to apply
How about
for.
this? I'll go ahead and make a motion that we go ahead and approve the 4.75 plus up to $2 million worth of the.
Mr. Chairman, do you mind if I make, or Tony, do you mind if I make that motion?
are you reading the recommendation?
No, I'm not.
Oh,
I'm
that's
not even
right.
looking at the recommendation. I am just coming up with this as I go along, as I go along. But, I'll be waiting for you to make that motion.
Okay, thank you very much.
But before you make that motion.
Okay.
I just want to know where the money came from, because it's gonna come from somewhere.
Usual
I just,
No, this is pretty good.
Mhm.
being a Yuma County resident and going to the fair for the, all my
15
life.
years, yeah.
My thing is now that I know that what's in place here, the fair being in the midway in a potential zone, that when the base is having their training, my question is, why do we have it that week? Can it be moved? And I'm not saying that this is not, going to happen, but my question is, why would we have an event, when it's jeopardizing our military?
Mr. Chairman,
Uh-huh.
I can answer that question from the military's perspective
Mhm.
because I had the opportunity to visit with the general that is in charge of Marine Corps Installation West to talk about that very thing. And I asked him about, from a military's perspective, are they able to take that event, which happens every 6 months?
No,
Yeah.
I'm saying the fair event, not the military. I'm not gonna, you don't wanna get involved with
It's
the
not
military.
just,
But it's the fair, they're saying, okay, this week, and then, we throw in this, I think there's a lot of things going on, but it's the schools too. And just to throw it out, I mean, I'm not trying to get something started here, but as a parent, when I was a parent, or with younger kids that go into elementary school, you finish the fair, next week, they start testings, all the tests, which is to and this is separate, but just thinking, well, the schools are they aware of, you know, a week off for the kids and then give them the tests? So my thing is just kind of throwing it out there that a lot of people maybe think about this, but they're not saying it.
So you can have it anytime you
So,
want to.
no, I'm just saying, I mean, I know it needs to happen, but,
Is there any way that you could change
it's-
the schedule for the fair?
yeah.
That's
Just-
what you're
just-
asking.
Just thinking.
We've had this conversation.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Board of Supervisors, Eric Wofford with Yuma County Fair. I'm the general manager. I guess back in 1950, the fair's been on this property since 1953. And their neighbor, or our neighbor now, MCAS, since 1954. So we've been neighbors growing up. I think traditionally, there wasn't WTI back in, and we've always been the 14th full weekend. So I think it plays a lot into the school's schedule, our schedule, but then you're also talking the livestock in regards to, you know, when those animals drop and when they're going to be prepared for fair. So there's a lot of different combinations in regards to relocating the dates of ours. And we've had this conversation early on about trying relocation. There's also routes within the state of Arizona in regards to Pinal being the week before us, Maricopa being the week after us. So we've kind of moving up or down would put us on top of, and then that jeopardizes carnival, that jeopardizes vendor, that jeopardizes a lot of judges for the animals. So that compromises how that would all play out and the logistics of it.
Well, and Mr. Chairman, I think too, with the increased tempo of operations at MCAS, they're bringing in more and more squadrons.
gonna make any
More and more
difference.
other businesses are coming into the airport itself. It's not going to change the flight tempo coming over the fairgrounds. I think moving it, it's just going to continue to increase. Yeah, WTI is a busy time, but here lately I haven't seen really a quiet time over there. It seems like it's just consistent.
No, and the thing is, you know,
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that the board is aware that parents dictate when the schools get the days off. It's not the school board, the parents will tell them, because they send out a calendar and which one. But I'm just saying, because I've been getting, that was my question back then, no one could answer it, but I'm getting that more and more, especially now hearing about the fair and what it's gonna cost to move when it's finally moved. That parents say, well, why? Because they think it's under us. The fair,
Right.
it's under the Yuma County Board of Supervisors. And I tell them it's not, but then that's when I get those questions.
Yes, no.
So.
Mr. Chair, I can't tell the school board when to have their testing. I'm a parent too, and I have to deal with the same thing, having my kids go right back into it. But again, that's a conversation with the school board in regards to
Oh,
when
you
they
assign
decide to
it
have.
over to the county and make the county deal with the problem, you know?
Thank you
Okay,
for that.
You don't want it, I
Yeah.
don't want it.
Mr. Chairman.
Boy, you
All right,
opened that up.
I'll take a motion.
Take a while. Hold on. It's because of our willingness to work with the Fair Board that the military has actually made additional commitments to the Yuma community. And so we'll continue to see that growth there. And that's one of the most important financial pillars of our community aside from agriculture.
Yes.
I am prepared to make a motion.
And I'm prepared to make a comment after you make
Oh,
the
come
motion.
on.
Make the comment before you
make the motion, I'll second it and then make the
Okay.
comment.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Go
Okay,
ahead.
I'd like to propose that we authorize the disbursement of $4,700,000 grant funding from the state of Arizona to the Yuma County Fair and provide up to $2 million in funding through a blend of ARPA eligible funds and or which is a grant and or loan. For the construction of site improvements necessary for relocation through a loan or the ARPA funds or a combination of both, subject to terms and conditions of mutually agreeable loan documents or other agreements as necessary.
Right. Just want to make clear.
Is there a
This
second?
includes
Is there a
replacement
second?
funds. Yeah, there's a second.
Okay.
I'll discuss this in a minute. Not too much discussion, just a comment. You know, there's difference between encroachment done willfully. You guys didn't encroach on the Marine Corps Air Station. The Marine Corps Station grew into you guys, but it's now not just that. It's regular aviation. You know, you put, this is an issue where the safety of people is being put in danger by the location. We all understand that that's not because the fair wanted it that way or because the the Department of Defense wanted it that way. They just both grew into each other. And it isn't, I'm not looking for a responsible individual, I'm looking for a way to solve this issue. And I think that this may help the board, you know, just make that move. It's money that came to us to solve a problem. I think this is solving a problem or in the way of solving a problem. So I'm going to second that motion. And again, all I want is to make sure that that little place that says replacement revenue is still with, okay? This, in the motion, it is replacement revenue,
Well,
not county general fund revenue.
People need to realize though too that there's more than just the fair that goes on out there.
It's a lot
Yes, it's an event center.
It's a huge event center. So.
All right.
All right.
There's a motion and a second. No further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Josh.
And the moment you want to turn that over to us, we'll be ready to run.
To run, yes.
Away from it.
Right.
Moving on to planning and zoning agenda. Item number 1, Development
Thanks, guys.
Service Planning and Zoning Division, public hearing,
Bye-bye. Thanks.
special use permit case number 23-02.
So which one are we doing first?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Anson Lahosset, Senior Planner,
Oh, go ahead, finish. It's fine.
presenting special use permit case 2302. Yes, Supervisor Reyes.
Right. I want to know why the paper always says that we do something before we do something. It's just like they think the Planning and Zoning Commission makes these decisions. I specifically told them, no, these decisions still have to come to the board. They don't, we at the Board of Supervisors didn't approve this Sky Tower of 120 feet. That was recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff probably. But there's no decision has been made on this already. It just irritates me to no end. I always read it in the paper that we did something we haven't done yet. This is like the third time this
Was
year.
it this one? Because we had another one of these
Yeah,
a
we had
couple
another-
of meetings ago in
Yeah.
the same area.
Yeah, we keep telling them they haven't gone. I never
approved.
seen it, so I thought maybe I'm just getting old and I saw it and I forgot it. But no, it just come out today. Maybe because I am getting old, but not to that level. I don't think. Well, maybe parking is an issue, but other than that, I wouldn't remember that.
Okay.
All right, go ahead. Sorry.
Thank you, Supervisor Reyes. And yes, the Board of Supervisors do need to approve special use permits for their approval. This is an expedited case, Mr. Chairman. Would you like a presentation of special use permit 2302?
Approved.
There's-
Second the motion. Did you make a motion?
I did.
Okay, well, I second the motion to approve the expedited item as presented so that the newspaper can correct and basically say we passed it now.
I didn't, let me open it up to the public first.
Okay, go ahead. Oh, you
Go
have
ahead
a
and
hearing. Sorry.
Anybody from the public? Seeing
the vice
none,
chair for the
we'll bring it back.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman. Sorry about that.
There's a motion.
I'll second the
There's a
motion.
second to approve special use permit case number 23-02. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
That goes to the motion that you quit while you were ahead. That was very nice of you not to get
Yes,
in there
very
and talk
good.
about it. It was tough
Rezoning,
enough.
regular public hearing item. Item number 1. Request for modification of subdivision regulations for the proposed Los Agaves by Redell Phases 1 through 3 subdivisions.
No.
Portia, members of the board, Juan Leon Rubio, Senior Planner with the Planning and Zoning Division. Before I present this case, I just want to make a little announcement. This is actually my last presentation to you
Oh, my
as a
goodness.
planner with Yuma County. It's been an honor to be here for so many years, presenting cases that have changed Yuma County, hopefully for the better.
Where do you think you're going?
Not only that, but who's gonna let you go?
Effective May 6th, I'll be retiring from Yuma County.
No.
So I'm not sure what's out there. I want to see what's out there, and hopefully I can.
There's nothing out there for you.
I want to continue being part of my community. It's been an honor, and I believe that as an employee, we've made recommendations that have better the community, and with your support, I want to thank you for being patient and giving, guidance to growth in Yuma County. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
How many years have you been with the county again?
Overall, I started back in
don't
as an
think we should
intern in the summer of '94.
Wow.
And I did a little bit of work for the city of Yuma back
Mhm.
in the late '90s.
We all have
And then I came back. So Yuma County DDS has been my home for over 25 years. And it's been, I've grown with Yuma County.
Yes.
And I'm still going to be here. I'm currently a commissioner with the city of Yuma.
You're making Bill and nervous, and you're gonna start crying, and we're gonna all get nervous.
I'll be seeing Bill at Planet Fitness. We're gym
I don't know if
buddies.
this isn't the agenda, Bill. If I were you, I would cut it off right there and say, focus on the meeting.
I will go back to my presentation. Thank you.
For your service all these years.
Thank you.
very much.
This is a request by Naja Diaz, acting as an agent, to modify section 7.25 of the Yuma County Public Works Standards for the proposed Los Agaves by Rydell Phases 1 through 3 subdivision located along the Fortuna Road between the alignments of County 12.5 Street and County 13th Street in Yuma. This is a map that shows the different phases. Most everything else here is just desert. It's a future growth area for Yuma County. Aerial imagery that shows a desert landscape, some solar farm to the east, and just desert. The modification being requested again is to access. It has to do with access off of Fortuna Road, and I'll show you the exhibits. The spacing of intersections at all public streets, roads, and highways and other major access should be 1.5 to 1.25 mile plus or minus 200 feet and based on section lines. The engineering department recommends denial of this request. Originally, they recommend denial since arterial streets shall be designed for high travel speeds and traffic volumes with limited access. And originally, that was the recommendation from the engineering department, but there's been discussions between the engineering department and the developer, and we have agreed, or the staff has agreed to change our recommendation. This was the original proposal. County on your left-hand side, we see phases 1 and 2 that shows the access point, and there was a conflict here because of the original design with phase 3 that shows the access points off of Fortuna Road. It was too close. So after the discussions, it was agreed that the new access to phase 3 would be off of County 13th Street. And this is something that the developer has agreed to do. So with this in mind, now the staff is recommending approval of the modification, which would only affect the one on your left-hand side, which will be the access off of Fortuna Road. So the commission, again, originally recommended denial because of staff's recommendation to deny this modification. But after discussions and a redesign of the subdivision, now we are recommending approval of this modification. And that concludes staff's presentation.
Any questions for Juan before, because this is the last time you're going to ask a question to
Really,
him.
Juan. So they're not going to have any access off of Fortuna
On phase 3.
For phase 3.
for phase 3, and it'll all come off of County 13th.
That is
So
correct.
That would be like a wall right there, so to speak, off of Fortuna. So okay. And County 13th is like 35, 25 miles an hour, right?
I believe that's the case, but that's something maybe our engineering department can answer.
Okay.
Well, County 12th
Yes,
is 35. I know that, but that's not in.
What is it?
35.
35 miles per hour.
35, good.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
I know we've got several subdivisions right now awaiting water approval from Arizona Department of Water Resources.
That is still pending. Chairman Porches, Supervisor Line, that is still pending. In discussions with the Deputy Director of Development Services, who has been in conversation at the state level, it appears that it's getting closer, but there's still no dates on when that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Has this been included yet into Foothills Utilities service area?
That is correct.
It has been. So it is in their service area.
This is in that service area, yes.
But it's still, but water still hadn't been approved.
Any, oh, go ahead.
No, I mean, there's a process that they go to. This is a modification of requirements. That means it's going through a process of getting final approval. To me, the developer has found an issue, or you guys have found an issue with the way the developer presented, so he requested a modification, and we're going through a modification. We're not giving final approval to subdivision. We're just going through a modification process. So water issues, all those other issues are going to be dealt with because before the final plan is sort of given, including sewer, whatever.
Yes. Chairman Porches, supervisors, this is only a modification to the tentative plat. The tentative plat was already approved by the commission. This would still have to come back as a final plat.
Well, I don't know, I was going to say, everybody is kind of quiet before I make a motion. I want to ask the DDS and everybody closely, all these new subdivisions going in out there, pay close attention to the traffic flow that's going to be coming into the area, because the density is getting outrageous. Fortuna and Foothills is getting this way now as well, as far as traffic buildup, problems. Just it's inherent with having all these new subdivisions and homes going in. I just encourage that we look at any traffic flow, any egress, regress into the main traffic arteries. It's looked at closely.
Yes, I agree with that, Supervisor, Chairman Porches, supervisors. That is the reason why this modification is here today, because this is a future growth area for the Foothills planning area. So we're taking all these points in consideration to ensure that there's orderly growth with these new subdivisions that are being built out here.
Before you make the motion.
Well, let me, I need to open it up to the public before,
We were in the.
But any questions, any other questions for Juan from staff?
I'll wait, okay.
All right.
Make it easy for you, Juan.
I'll open it up to the public. If there's any, bring it back to the board.
All right.
Okay.
I just want to make the point that this is a large subdivision. I mean, there's a lot of lots in here. We just went through a hearing at the city of Yuma where some developer thought that he could get rezoning just simply based on some sort of concept in his mind about what he was going to do. I am glad to see that there is a design, but I'm also concerned a little bit, as Supervisor Simmons has stated, that area is developing pretty fast. This is pretty condensed. I mean, this is a large subdivision. There's two large blocks. You're lucky you're going ahead before some of the other ones are coming up, because in essence, there's going to come a point where we start talking about what all this paving, what all these things are going to do to those, how they would bridge. I mean, this is not in the washes or anything like that I can think of. I just want to make sure that everybody that's planning to do something in the subdivision understands the issues we deal with traffic when it becomes a situation where everybody just goes out and gets onto the road. There will be, I know there's a traffic study coming up somewhere in here, so I'm not concerned that the developer's not aware. I mean, they're aware of the traffic situation. Hopefully they all come to an understanding that sometime in the future, when somebody wants to plan a larger section of land like the other one, we're going to be talking about how do we get those arterial streets, how do we get those wide enough to handle this much traffic on the foothills.
Yeah.
Go ahead, you
I was going to say, I'll make a motion that we approve the change that was agreed upon by planning and zoning.
Well, I'd like to second that motion, but planning and zoning didn't agree to it. Staff agreed to it.
Our staff worked, the agreement they came to.
Recommendation.
So I'll second the motion as long as we don't mention the Planning and Zoning Commission. I think they denied it unless you took it back to them, did you?
No, this was not taken back to the
Staff, I
commission.
meant staff.
So the recommendation would be for approval of the modifications requested.
There's a motion and a second to approve the modification presented by staff. Any other comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Juan, and good.
Yeah, good. No, excuse me. No,
Good.
Good
luck on your new adventure.
I didn't even get a chance to talk. No, well, I was expecting you in shorts. You brought the big guy as a bodyguard. I know, but.
Congratulations, Juan.
Congratulations, Juan, on your retirement.
Juan, take care.
Hey, did
Good
you
luck.
get one of those metal things, as a retirement, didn't you? Did you meet the 25?
Didn't put it in, huh?
See you later, Maggie.
We'll move on to legislative issues.
Mr. Chairman, members of the
Had
board.
issues with the legislature. Well, go ahead.
Alejandro Figueroa, Economic Development and Intergovernmental Affairs Director. On Tuesday, April 25th, the legislature came back from their week-long break and completed some floor action, but both chambers went out for another recess until Wednesday, May 3rd. So there are two potential reasons for these extended breaks. First, the Senate and the House do not have the members to proceed with party line votes on bills that remain. It is important to note that there will possibly be a number of other absences besides replacing, Representative Harris over the next few weeks due to vacations and conferences. The second potential reason is the budget. So while we received mixed feedback on the budget negotiations, some say that it's going very well, but it's still a small meetings between the governor and the Senate president and the State House Speaker. No appropriation shares or other members of the Democratic Party are attending those meetings at the moment. And while we don't know when the current session will conclude, May 8th marks the 120th day of the session, at which time legislators per diem decreases to $10 a day. I'd also like to share with you that before going into a second break, the House unsuccessfully attempted to do a veto override on HB 2509, which is the bill that expanded the current cottage food program to include products that require temperature controls to be safe for consumption, like meat and dairy. The vote was 35 ayes and 23 nays. They needed to reach, obviously, 40 votes in the House to override the veto. The Republican legislature leadership is saying that they will attempt the veto one more time after they come back from their recess.
Would you expand on that for everybody, please, so they
Why?
understand what it addresses, because it affects a number of people, specifically in Yuma County.
Right. So in Yuma County, there's a lot of individuals who have their own business. They call this a tamale bill.
Yeah.
So it would allow for people to continue to prepare their food and sell it without a license to do so. Other states have programs specifically for temperature-controlled products, and they leave the other ones alone. I mean, unless it's going to be cooked and has to be kept at a specific temperature, they do legislate on it. But if it's not, if it's a cold product,
Or it's something that's
that
cooked in.
most states don't deal with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But in this case, the idea of the legislature is to allow for tamale business owners or producers to be able to keep doing their business as they have been in the past. And the governor vetoed that bill, saying that it could create some foodborne poisoning and in the community, and that she would like to see a lot more control over that. So the CSA was opposed to the bill initially when it first came out, because counties would have been responsible for investigating foodborne illnesses under the new expanded program. But now the CSA has moved its position from opposed to neutral because the counties were removed from responsibility investigating foodborne illnesses. So it is, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman Lyons, it is very likely that the veto will happen once the recess breaks and they come back to session. Now, some Democrats have changed their position. They first voted for, the bill, and now they're abstaining from actually overriding the veto. That's where we're at right now. So they're negotiating and seeing if the Democrats will, again, support the bill and actually override the veto. Speaking of the governor, she vetoed HB 2759, which is nonprofits facilitation trafficking offenses and penalties. She argues that while the bill aims to protect victims of trafficking, stakeholders agree that it could further harm them. She also argues that it is not uncommon for victims of trafficking to be charged with crimes related to the victimization, and that this bill does not take this into account. On HB 2669, which is the biosolids bill, I'd like to report to the board that Representative Dunn toured AgTech's facilities in Yuma County a few days ago, and then the CSA and Yuma County staff, we had also an opportunity to tour the facilities and its operations. Yuma County and CSA staff will meet with Representative Dunn and ADQ staff tomorrow to comment on our visit and a potential amendment to the bill proposed by ADQ. before it goes to the Senate's Committee of the Whole. So we held it from the Committee of the Whole until we had this meeting with ADEQ to see exactly what is it that they are asking Representative Dunn to include into the bill. Our tour, when we were there were no smells. There were some flies, for sure. So we want to make sure that what Yuma County is focusing on is any environmental nuisances that this operation is creating for our residents, not so much doing ADEQ's job. That's our position at this point. And I mean, unless you direct me otherwise, I'm going to let ADEQ deal with their own things and handle things their way. But the legislative, at this point, I think we need to figure out a compromise.
Well, I'd like them to have to go up to B.
Right.
So the septage has to be treated.
When they live there for a month.
That's the only thing I'm requesting.
Alejandro, one of the additional conversations that we had with the previous director of ADEQ was identifying the PFAS and how it affects our overall water, specifically
That's right.
because of the way that we reclaim the water and recharge the Colorado River off of the mesa. So that's critical. ADEQ said that we could address that in rulemaking. However, I would like to see if we can incorporate that somehow. That's a little bit of a higher standard. That's the way that the EPA and others are moving, but I think that would be important for Yuma County, for our agriculture, and for the public in general.
Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman Lyons, it is my understanding that Pima County actually tried that, and they, for a full year, they wouldn't allow any biosolids to go into Pima County until they did some research on that. And right now, we don't have any testing on the groundwater in Yuma County, but that is definitely a possibility. And with the change of directors at ADEQ, we are still pending a meeting with the new one.
Okay.
To see if we can still do something on the administrative side, as well as including fees for out-of-state biosolids.
To our county to address.
To our county.
Or remediate, yeah. Okay. Because Alejandro, I want to note for everybody here and for the public that it is illegal for California to dump those biosolids in California, so they are dumping in Arizona.
Exactly. Thank you. And I want it to stop. Thank you very much.
Do it in Nevada.
Sorry, I mixed up my notes. Okay, so on the federal side, the U.S. Department of Transportation, USDOT, announced the availability of $848 million in fiscal year 2022 and fiscal year 2023 funding for the Promoting Resilient Operations for Transformative, Efficient, and Cost-Saving Transportation, also known as a PROTECT grant program, established by the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. The PROTECT program funds can be used to plan for and improve the resiliency of local infrastructure. Counties are directly eligible to apply through USDOT until the deadline on August 18. On the international side, the General Service Administration, GSA, held a Community Representative Committee meeting at the City of San Luis on April 26. Attendees to this meeting got a project update on the San Luis One Port of Entry expansion and remodeling project. The groundbreaking for phase 1 of the project is slated for late June 2023. The project is now up to $311 million, which makes it one of the largest Arizona-Mexico border investments in a long time. San Luis One reported the highest volume of private vehicles processed since the year 2000, and San Luis Two reported the highest number of northbound commercial trucks since 2008. More on the U.S.-Mexico side of things, I recently met with the new council, Mexico's new council in Yuma to discuss collaboration opportunities, including economic development and workforce development efforts. I will also be coordinating a meeting between the Canada-Arizona Business Council, the Mexican Consulate, and Yuma County in the coming weeks to capitalize on Yuma County's opportunities due to its privileged geographic location and the growing number of Canadian and Mexican nationals who visit our county every year.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
I sent you an email and to Ian regarding the designation of the Highway 95 corridor. And Alejandro, if you could get that from Ian so that we could readdress that with our partners in Mexico and with our federal partners as well. Why are you laughing, Tony?
So I'm looking at you surrounded by screens. I was going to suggest a third one so that you look even busier. But I just sort of held back a little bit. I thought I would address that during our presentation. So I look at him surrounded by screens and I go like, okay, he needs a third one.
No, he doesn't need a third one, because then it would impact me, so.
Well, you had one on your side.
I know.
That concludes my
I didn't
presentation.
want to say it.
Thanks.
Sorry, Alejandro.
Any other questions for Alejandro?
No, Alejandro, thank you very much.
Thank you, Alejandro.
Thank you, Alejandro. Current events.
Okay.
We'll start with Supervisor Tancred.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Moving on. No, just kidding.
Thank you for your report.
Hey, it's 11 o'clock. It's not even noon yet. I attended the WACOG meeting of the Regional Council on the Aging. I attended the County Health Assessment Steering Committee meeting. I went to the Employees Award event, and it was very, very, very good. I'd like to see more people there, but that's, I attended the budget briefing. I had a special meeting of CSA executive board members. I attended the Teacher of the Year banquet. I went to San Luis, the Newport. I went to that presentation down in San Luis. It was the GSA update. It was very, very, very informative, and so did Josh. And I attended the YMPO meeting, Victims' Right picnic and ceremony. I attended that. I had a second meeting with Ian and Tony on the budget. Thanks, guys. And I would like to, May 6th is a cleanup in the Magnolia area by Public Works, so I'm thanking them ahead of time, so, for helping clean up one of my areas, so. That's it.
Met with Arizona Western College to discuss their law enforcement training academy, about how that can move forward. Participated in a WIFA meeting. I wanted to announce that the next full board meeting for WIFA would be held in Yuma County.
Oh, good. When is that?
And they are going to reach out to Ian for additional accommodations. It's June. So it'll be a great opportunity to be able to bring people in to talk about that. And because of that meeting, I was late returning to Yuma, so I missed the awards banquet, and I wanted to beg forgiveness for that. I participated in the roundtable at sector headquarters with Border Patrol, and we'll be back there this week. Met with the Southwest Contractors Association to help them understand how legislation impacts industry and the community, and had 3 different meetings with individuals in the community regarding agriculture, regarding Title 42. Participated in Amberley Place board meeting, the budget briefing, and a few additional meetings and conversations with Ian, etc.
I know you call him.
Supervisor Lang? I mean, Supervisor Simmons?
Yeah.
Can't get off that,
I'd say I was gone that 1 week. Again, like Supervisor Lane said, I'd like to congratulate all the winners and our employees for their years of service. That's just remarkable. I picked up my 30-year award from HR, so, which was very nice. Had a budget brief also, and election advisory board meeting, and several other meetings with people throughout my area.
Supervisor
Right,
Reyes?
I attended the budget briefings like everybody else did. I also attended, well, the long-term planning sessions were before that, but I also went to the domestic violence event, the domestic violence event in Somerton, which, you know, I know the Chairman may say he went to, I didn't see him until I left. But I did what was there. I also attended a Greater Yuma Port Authority meeting. I know that Ian was there through Zoom. I also attended by Zoom an Arizona Board of Counties Coalition Federal Representative session. I know that Alejandro was there during the whole time. I just started there for a little while last Friday. And I just want to ask if I could have an item put in the agenda, and I don't know whether we have to wait until, you know, the report is done, but I wanted to see the possibility. You know, I heard the sheriff, I think, in the presentation referred to the fentanyl deaths that can be easily prevented if we had Narcan available everywhere, like we do have defibrillators and those kind of things, especially for people who have someone they care for, because I think addicts don't think like that, but other people. So I saw an article on the National Association of Counties newspaper that talked about vending machines for Narcan. I'd like to see if we can study something like that for so we can do something about it, as opposed to something that we can do, as opposed to, you know, just hearing about it. So we just put that in the agenda sometime, do a little research and maybe bring it up. I think that's it.
Thank you. I don't know what I wrote here now. Can't read it.
If you're like me, you won't be able to read what you wrote.
Election Advisory Board.
I attended the CSA meeting last week or a couple of weeks ago. Also attended the budget briefing meeting. I was there with Mr. Reyes at the domestic violence event in Somerton. I was in the back. He didn't see me, but you actually you spoke pretty good. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you left right away. He
had a meeting later, I think.
The Employees Appreciation Day event, that went really well set up, and I mean, always turns out nice. Last week last week the Elections Committee meeting, also with Mr. Simmons there. That's pretty much it. But, you know, just hearing that comment from Supervisor Pancrase about which more people or more staff had attended. And I think Mr. Reyes made that comment, you know, during that event. I know a lot of them are working, and it's, you know, the time maybe they're busy, but I mean, maybe how can we, you know, get them to participate for that day, a couple of hours, or, you know, maybe we can, you know, and I know I talked to you, Ian, about it, and maybe we throw out some raffles out there or something.
Give them money, they'll come for that.
So, but other than that, that's it. Ian?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Attended the Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors meeting, the quarterly managers meeting of county managers and deputies and cities and town managers here in Yuma County, the ACMA, Arizona City County Management Association Board Retreat, quarterly management team meeting, YSIPTA board meeting, Arizona at Work monthly meeting, Southwest Arizona Town Hall meeting, Greater Yuma Port Authority, Elections Advisory Committee, Somerton Domestic Violence Walk. Saw you there, Chairman Porteous.
I didn't see you. I did not see you. Reyes? Hey, look, I was there to start the process, not to...
And the Victims' Right Picnic. And I do want to thank HR and all the staff that helped out with the Employee Appreciation event. It was really well orchestrated and well done. And finally, a reminder for the Tacna Water Project groundbreaking this week. Is it Thursday?
Yes.
The 4th. Thursday, the 4th at 10 a.m. at Kiwanis Park. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
3 minutes.
All right. Budget presentation.
There we go. Bring in a bottle of water because it could be lengthy.
I would suggest, you know, if I leave at 11:30, I've got to pick up my daughter and come back. Then, you know.
Good morning, Chairman Porteous, members of the board, Ian McGahee, County Administrator. This morning, I'm pleased to present the recommended budget for Yuma County for fiscal year 2023 and 24. The recommended budget is the result of months of work on the part of our staff in the Yuma County Office of Management and Budget, Financial Services, Human Resources, County Administration, and the directors of the county and court departments, agencies, and offices. I'm pleased to present the result of these shared efforts, which is a budget that is responsible, physically sustainable, and representative of the goals outlined in our strategic plan. The county identified a number of goals going into the 23-24 budget process. We took a baseline approach, meaning that we looked at every expenditure from the ground up to determine the necessity for that expenditure and the appropriate funding level. We also carefully considered all new budget requests to ensure a balanced and responsible budget. We considered salary increases that aligned with our core strategic pillars of operational excellence and valued employees and resources. Staff worked with the Yuma County Employees Benefits Trust and our health insurance consultant to minimize health care cost increases for employees, and we ensured the ongoing stability of all funds in the budget. Among the challenges in preparing this budget were inflation and its impact on expenditures and its increase on employees' cost of living, employee attraction and retention, which was by far the #1 concern expressed by department directors and elected officials at our recent long-term planning roundtable, infrastructure and facility needs as we look to update, replace, and remodel aging buildings, legislative impacts that affect us every year caused by federal and state legislative actions that directly increase county expenditures, and of course, meeting our budgetary goals while maintaining strong fund balances in all major funds. This chart summarizes all funds for which the county is responsible, with recommended appropriations for the next fiscal year compared to the current year's budget. The general fund reflects an increase in revenues that we will discuss in more detail later in the presentation. I'm sorry, in reserves, increase in reserves that we'll discuss in detail later. Special revenue includes the jail district, health district, library district, flood control districts, as well as all grant funds. The debt service increase is due to higher debt service on the 2022 bond issuance. And capital projects includes funding for multi-year major projects, as well as several buildings, including the home of the new Yuma County Administrative Services right across the street, the Health District building remodel, and more, which we'll also discuss in more detail later. Internal service funds, which includes $2.5 million for our vehicle replacement program. Our major fund of note is the general fund. Revenue categories for the general fund are shown here. The largest 3 sources of revenue are shown at the top: county property tax, state shared sales tax, and the county sales tax. As you can see, there's been a sizable increase in both state shared sales tax and county sales tax, nearly 12% above this year's adopted budget. The state and county have been experiencing strong retail sales, and Yuma County is realizing its share of these revenues. I think it's safe to say that inflation has also played a role in the increase. General fund expenditures include personnel and related expenses, supplies and services, vehicles, equipment, and contingencies, transfers out to other funds, and fund balance reserves. The decrease in transfers out is due in large part to the board's decision to pay off existing debt of $10 million this year, so less ongoing debt service is needed going into the recommended baseline budget. During the budget process, the budget review team evaluated requests for new positions for fiscal year 23-24 using uniform metrics. 19.45 positions were requested for next fiscal year. The recommended budget includes a net increase of 3.95 full-time equivalent positions from all funds compared to the current year. This table shows the detail of the recommended personnel changes for the upcoming budget. I would like to mention that the BRT is recommending a change from the recommended to the tentative budget to include a second registered sanitarian for the health district. We've learned more about the long lead time involved for training and certification for that position, the non-permanent nature of a current part-time sanitarian, and the increased need demonstrated for the position. So the district's strong financial situation also contributed to that decision to recommend the modification. So with that second sanitarian added to the forthcoming tentative budget, that net change of personnel will increase to 4.95. There were a total of 19 reclassification requests, with all requests being evaluated by Human Resources and recommended. The overall financial impact is just under $100,000. As you know, reclassifications are used to address situations where a position has grown and the current duties are outside the original job description. 40 hours of PTO buyback is once again recommended, as is the continuation of the loan repayment, tuition reimbursement, and internship programs. The existing general fund projects shown here are recommended for continued funding in the FY 23-24 recommended budget. I'll pause just for a moment so you can look through as opposed to me reading each one. Moving on, 9 new general fund capital projects are also recommended for funding in the 23-24 recommended budget. In special revenue funds, several capital projects are recommended. These include continuing projects in the Highway User Revenue Fund for roads, as well as flood control, health, library, jail districts, and the TACNA Improvement Project. We're also recommending 9 new projects for the jail district, as the aging detention center needs to address a number of issues to keep the building safe and viable. As mentioned, the weakening effects of inflation on employee wages and the challenges the county is facing with recruitment and retention justify increases to employee compensation. This budget recommends a 6% increase in scale and a 1% merit-based increase. These compensation increases would be effective the first full pay period in July. Instead of implementing in-house market studies on select positions, which often resulted in inequity issues within departments and offices and in the county as a whole, the budget includes funding for an overall review of our entire compensation structure. A county compensation study conducted by a professional outside firm will produce comprehensive compensation recommendations that are transparent, objective, and fair. The study is expected to cost under $100,000. This budget also includes funding for the implementation of that study. The recommended fund balances for the general fund are shown here. It's important to keep a healthy fund balance in case of emergency or some unexpected reduction of revenues during the course of a fiscal year, so the county can continue to provide needed services to the community. For fiscal year 23-24, we are again recommending an additional 5% as a recession contingency for each major fund as a prudent approach for any potential economic downturn. The Board of Supervisors contingency adds $120,000 for the county's contribution toward the potential establishment of the National Center for Public Lands Counties. The budget accommodates up to $7 million in contingency funding for the implementation of the compensation study, though at this time, based on internal reviews, we anticipate the need being less than that. The estimate was based in part on the City of Yuma's recent compensation study implementation, which cost $6 million. Any funds unused from implementing the study this year will remain in contingency. And as shown in this chart, the general fund balance has increased steadily as planned over the past 7 years. As mentioned earlier, the recommended budget includes a proposed recession contingency of 5%. The recession contingency is shown as an additional pink bar on top of the current 20% fund balance. For special district funds, both the health district and jail district include a recommended additional recession contingency of 5%. The library district also includes a recommended 5% recession contingency. However, we are not recommending a recession contingency in flood control at this time due to the fund's low reserves. This budget recommends a nearly 9-cent decrease in the general fund tax rate. This tax rate maintains our current year levy and adds new construction. The library recommendation is an increase for operations of just over 1 cent, offset by a reduction of the same amount in debt service, netting to a 0 change in the overall rate. The recommended budget includes an increase of 8.76 cents in the tax rate for the flood control district. Overall, there is no increase to the combined property tax rate for all funds. This slide compares the general fund maximum allowable levy and rate to the current and upcoming fiscal years to the adopted and recommended levy and rate. Thanks to the reduction in the general fund tax rate, the total levy minus new construction will stay the same. Including new construction allows for a net increase in the levy of just under $1 million. This chart shows the property tax levy over the past 15 years in the blue columns as compared to the allowable levy shown by the red line. As you can see, the board has adopted a levy well below the allowable amount for the past 11 years. As reported by the county assessor, overall net assessed values increased for fiscal year 23-24 by 6.33%, while new construction increased just over 14%. Excluding new construction, the assessed value for existing properties increased by 3.62%. So as shown in this chart, for the current year, a median home valued at $261,000 paid an annual general fund property tax of $655. If that same home increased in assessed value by the average assessor's increase of 3.62%, the annual general fund property tax would stay the same, no increase. Now here we see the overall property tax impact, including the general fund, flood control district, and library district operations and debt service. Again, you'll see that for a home increasing in value to $270,448 by that 3.62%, there is no increase to the general fund property tax paid over the current year. Due to the need to add funds to the flood control district and the corresponding rate increase for that district, a taxpayer with an increase in property value of that 3.62% or nearly $10,000 in value will see an increase in approximately $25.21 for flood control. The library rates together are flat compared to this year with no increase in their combined rate. Again, with that property increasing in value to more than $270,000, there would be an increase in $8.33. So altogether, there would be an overall increase of $33.54 for that $270,000 home, with the total rates remaining the same as the current year and a nearly 9-cent reduction in the general fund tax rate. And here is a simplified version of that data showing the overall increase in levy for a homeowner seeing that 3.62% increase in property values from this current fiscal year to the next. Finally, here are the next steps in the process. Later today and tomorrow, of course, the Board of Supervisors will hold budget meetings with all departments, agencies, and outside parties. At the end of tomorrow's budget sessions, staff would like to hear from the board on any items you'd like to change or add to the budget in preparation for bringing the tentative budget for your consideration on May 22nd. We'll have the interactive spreadsheet and financial forecasting tools available for you tomorrow if the board wants to explore various options that you may wish to consider. So on May 22nd, as I mentioned, the board will adopt the tentative budget, which is the maximum budget the board can consider
prior to the final adopted budget. And on June 19th, the board will conduct a combined budget hearing and truth and taxation hearing and adopt the final budget for fiscal year 23-24. This concludes the recommended budget presentation. I believe this is a responsible, fiscally sustainable budget that allows the county to effectively serve our residents, businesses, and visitors in the coming year. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
I have a couple, and then they're more than questions, they're just sort of like comments, but yeah, I'll do it as a question. So this is still gonna require for us to have a truth and taxation here, even though we reduce the tax rate, you know, by.
That's correct, for the flood control district and the library operations.
So the truth and taxation hearing is going to be for the budget or just for their budget?
Just for those tax rates.
Increases, right?
Yes.
So the truth in taxation is a system that's designed to sort of forget that we're reducing the tax rate. If the landowner or property owner has to pay a little more, then we have to have a truth in taxation here.
That's correct. It's related to the levy. If there's an increase in levy, yes, sir.
All right. So, okay. So the second question is, what does a reduction in rate look like 10 years from now? I mean, I'm always concerned that we reduce the rate to fit the levy. But the levy is not really what goes on for 10 years. The tax rate is what determines what's on for 10 years. So by the time we get back, sometime later this afternoon, Tony, I'd like to see what keeping the tax rate lower is going to do over 10 years. Because I'm concerned that later on, the other supervisor is going to say, why did we do this? Because it's impacting them. So I want to see the impact over 10 years. That's why we have the tool to plan over. Right. I'm always concerned when we reduce the tax rate to fit the levy, that the levy, can change. As long as we kept the same tax rate, we'll know that we didn't increase tax rates. It's always the same argument about taxes. I don't want to tax people more than I have to, but this is longevity to me. This is a sustainability issue. You keep reducing the rates, it's very difficult to bring them back up, even to the level you had before. And even with the reduced tax rate or with the same tax rate, still the levy will be lower than it was last year. I hope. I'd like to see that in actual numbers, if I could, Tony.
I believe we'll be reviewing the long-term modeling tomorrow.
All right, tomorrow we're going to see the long-term modeling tomorrow. Okay, fine. As long as I get to see before we make a decision. Thanks.
Is that it?
That's it for me.
Cool. Any other questions for Ian? All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting, and we'll be back at 1
Recess?
or recess.
Do we recess or we start another one?
Adjourn because this afternoon is a special session.
It's a special, so.
Special session. Okay.